So hello and welcome to our new video, and this is going to be a very special one. I'll talk you through the evolution of the ARCUS bows, and that's been quite a journey, as you will see. Here I have put only a very few major steps in the development of our product. And I really had to look it up with all the dates and the details to even give you a rough cut of what we've done over these past 20 years. Actually, it's a little more than that. So, but let's start at the beginning, at the very, very beginning. It all started off with me designing bicycles. Suspension system, hydraulic brakes, all this kind of stuff. That was my profession, and I was working from a small office with two people and designing this kind of stuff. But I never stopped playing the violin in my life. So, and one day I just went out to buy me a better bow, and I could not find the bow of my dreams that did everything I wanted. Sounded nice, bounced well, stay put on the strings, allowed to play fortissimo without bottoming out. Well, all the bows I tried had some issues, no matter the price. So I thought, you know, with my bicycle engineer brain, that was kind of starting, and I thought, like, maybe there's a solution to that problem. Somewhere can be found. And I did quite a bit of research, and I just looked through some of my old papers, and I found some very fundamental measurements that I made and analysis of the forces of existing bows, or what's happening on the strings, masses, inertia, all this kind of stuff. And then I started to come up with some idea, like to create a stronger bow, a much stiffer, more resilient bow, with improved elasticity, with a somewhat more shallow curve, hollow build, so quite different from all the bows that had existed up to then. And it all, and oh yeah, this is one of the nice charts that I made. No, you don't want to see it. And it ended up with really very conceptual drawing here, which I put in CAD with a revolutionary curve. So don't try to copy that. And from there, based on these ideas, this prototype was created. A friend of mine who had some experience with using carbon fiber on wheels for bicycles made this for me, and it is a very, very ugly bow. Probably the ugliest thing you could see, but it has a beautiful sound, and it plays well. And so this ugly baby here back from 1996 or 97, I think 97, was our proof of concept. So this actually had a chance. The only trouble was to come from this prototype to serial production. Well, that was an entirely new thing. I approached all kinds of companies who made carbon fiber products, and they all just shook their head and said, no, we can't do that. And maybe somebody else could, but we can. And in the end, nobody could. So we had to come up with a way to manufacture them. And my good friend then had no real occupation at that time, so he had time on his hand, and I had no experience in making carbon fiber, and so he offered me to produce the bows for me. And this is then how our first workshop, our first production in Klagenfurt, Austria got started. in a basement, a little damp, a little chilly at times, a little dark, but you know, Apple also started in a garage, so why not? And it was a little bit of a makeshift, but we were able then, after 3 years of further development and trials and errors, lots of errors, to come up with the first very, very small production batch of, I don't know, what was that, 10, 20 bows or so. And I even have our first price list from 1999 here, where we have each one violin, viola, cello bow, concerto and sonata. So that was our very, very first bows, our first models. And yeah, and I actually do have one such bow here, back from 1999. It somehow happened not to be sold or turned back to me. I don't even know how it came into my possession again. But here it is. It has a black painted stick, not the silver shiny polished one that we have today. And it already features our trademark silver tip plate and a snakewood frog. So we did this from the very beginning. No engraving, no classification, and lots of other goodies that came over the years. But it was a bow that really played well and sounded well. They were quite different and not everybody liked them, but it was a good start. And we found customers for it. In the year 2000 we had our first booth at the Musikmesse in Frankfurt, which was a very, very busy event back then. And to my big surprise, not only some amateurs bought bows, but some professional players. So that was thrilling, and they were really happy with those babies. So that was the very, very beginning, 20 years ago, exactly. And yeah, and then a journey for more and more discovery started, and we never stopped researching and developing. The next thing we found out is that, well, one of the initial ideas was to make our bows a little bit lighter, and we did. But what did we make lighter? The stick. But we used a conventional frog with all the heavy silver parts on them, and it ended up as being a little heel heavy, the bow. And so I designed a new shape of a frog where I cut away all the excessive wood that was not needed and took away most of the silver parts that were also not needed. And we used a titanium underslide and all that. And that brought, that by making the frog much lighter, we brought the center of gravity back to where it's most comfortable for most players. So that's how we came about this interesting looking bow. And this is what we then called Sinfonia and Cadenza. And these bows came out, let me see, in 2001, yeah. So a good year, 1.5 years after our first production run, we fixed the first issue that we found on our bows. The next thing that happens then is when some soloists got our bows and they played them real hard, the paint came off on the strings. So when you play extremely hard, you can even bottom out an ARCUS bow. And the string, if you look at it, it has a metal winding that's pretty rough and hard. And then the paint started to come off and made a nice mix together with the rosin on the string. And black paint and rosin all together is not very grippy. So that led to some serious issues and some solo concerts. And so we had to either make our paint much more durable for soloists, that was a problem, or get rid of it. And we tried both. And when we made our paint thicker and stronger, we discovered that it tarnishes the sound. It kills some overtones, which we didn't like. And we did also the other way. We tried the other way. How is it when we grind it all down and polish the stick? Well, we found that our surface was not nearly good enough to do that. So it wasn't looking good. So we worked the extra hours to make our sticks look good enough so we can present them without paint. That was a little bit, that was a little difficult. And then the next thing was with this carbon fiber look, we were very concerned whether people would like it and accept it. So I decided, what the hell, I'd just make a prototype and bring it to the next Musikmesse. And I did that and showed it to our customers, and they all wanted it, all of them. So nobody was in for the paint anymore. So we made a 180 degrees turn in regards of surface. And instead of thinking about, clear coating or whatnot, we just got rid of paint altogether. And so that was then in 2002, I believe, that we started to ship all our bows with no paint. And and in 2002 we also made the first bass bows. So up to then it was only violin, viola, cello. Bass bows are pretty big, and the bigger you go with this hollow stick and all that, things getting a little trickier. But yeah, we made some bass bows and they turned out to be quite nice, and bass player liked them. Not to say they couldn't be improved, but let's stick to the violin bows for now. And we also, and we did another one. The quality of our sticks was getting better and better, and also the sound quality of our sticks got better. And we started then to classify the bows. I think that was also around 2002, where we tested them for how well they responded to vibrations and classified them. And then we found there are some really excellent sticks between them, and they became the new Cadenza Gold. So we made our first gold-mounted bows also in 2002, and then classified them down to Cadenza Silver, Concerto, Sinfonia, and Sonata. And so that was a graduation for sound quality. Similar things what processor makers, for example, Intel or AMD, they're doing. They make all the processors in the same die, and then test them how fast, how well they run, and graduate them accordingly. So that's what we do since 2002. The next thing then was, by our bows getting better and better, they also became a little more expensive, and not everybody was happy about that. And so we thought, well, why not try to come up with a more economical solution? And we introduced the Veloce bows. One of the basics here was to make it a little heavier, give it a nickel mounting, take away the eye and stuff that all costs a little bit extra, and see how people like that. And accidentally, this bow, by being heavier, turned out to be sounding much darker, and that was a very interesting discovery, as I had never thought about the tuning of a bow, but it made a significant difference depending on which instrument you played. So the tuning of a bow, that was something I've never heard anywhere. I've never read that. I never read that in any book or in any lecture or whatever. So there was nothing about it. Tuning a bow. So I wasn't sure. It was not just me, going a little nuts about thinking too much about bows. But by trying the darker sounding Veloce against our brighter sounding Concerto bows, for example, on various instruments, the result was repeating, and it was a very, very clear effect. And so we thought, okay, most student instruments have a little brighter sound, and so we have the darker sounding bow. With it, that's a good match. And the nicer professional instruments, which are usually warmer in sound, go well with the brighter sounding bows. But yeah, that was actually only in our entrance into that topic, and we continued our research into it, and later on came to completely new solutions about this. So this was the Veloce, and then from the Veloce we thought, okay, maybe we play along with that topic a little more. And a year later, in 2006, we came out with the Allegro. That was then silver mounted, a little nicer finished, trying to bring up the same concept with a nicer design. This later became what we call nowadays the M series bows. So that was an interesting development for us. And then we also had quite a few requests during that period from especially English-speaking countries where more electric fiddles are played, and quite a few of them with 5 and 6 strings. And they started to apply our viola bows and found them quite useful and helpful on their instruments. Our viola bows offering a weight that was below a traditional violin bow and the strings of a viola bow, and it led us to the development of the Vega, which is now the E series bow. I don't have one here, I'm afraid. So that was an in-between between a violin bow and a viola bow. We still have a few of those, and so that was an interesting little side project. And then we also developed the Veloce for the double bass, and I spare you all the little things. Okay, and then happened something big. So we were running the business from Würzburg with 3, 4, 5 people in the meantime, doing the research and development, the marketing work, the sales, the customer service, and all that. But the production was still in Klagenfurt, Austria, and that's a day traveling, and that's communication over a border. It's shipment over a border with customs. Back then, we already were in the EU, but still, it took time, for information to exchange. For can you have a look at this? No, we can't, because we're hundreds of kilometers apart. And by the company growing in demand, outgrowing the supply, and we had to think about, would it be possible to put all the company under one roof? And we've also never quite fixed some of the quality issues that we had over all these years. So we kept sending bows back and forth to Klagenfurt when I was not quite happy with the bow, while I might have promised this bow already to a customer. So that created a lot of extra work and things. And so I decided I wanted the production under the same roof as all the rest of the company. And so we got new promises in 2008 and moved all the production, the machinery and everything to Würzburg, and actually redesigned all the production process, from the heating process, from how we cut the layers, how we lay them up. We had a lot more space here, so we had the room for a lot of improvements. So that's a lot of small things that you won't see when you just look at the plain bow, at the finished bow. But if you make a closer analysis, you'll find a lot of small things that were improved. One other aspect why I wanted the production here in Würzburg finally was that it gave me the opportunity to turn a product idea, or maybe just a research idea, into a product within only a couple of days. So I would sit at my desk and think about this feedback that I had from one customer or two or three, and thinking about, well, can I fulfill that wish, that dream, that idea? And then stuff happened like just a wild example, like this X series bows, where I had some customers, wearing leather jackets, playing electric instruments on stage in musicals, in rock bands, and I figured, wait a minute, can I make something more rock and roll for these people? And I've had the first prototype of this bow within a week or so. So that's stuff we can now do with a workshop next door. Or else, when I'm in the workshop every day, I spend some time there working myself or checking out what's going on. And every day also my people come to me with is this okay? Or, we have an idea, to improve maybe the process or the product a little bit here and there. And we discuss it and we, make a decision and on we go. And that's a huge advantage to have everything under one roof. And I'm really glad 10 years after this somewhat difficult step of, restarting all production, I'm really glad we did that. So back to the year 2008 then. What we did is we decided we want to rebrand or rename all our products, because we knew we would expand the product range to fulfill all the musicians' needs. And we can't do that with just 4 or 5 bows like the Veloce, Concerto, Cadenza. That's not possible. So we decided to rename the product and started the S and the M series line. The S series then was like the successor of the Concerto. So they look quite similar and are based on the same ideas, only with, as I explained, quite some improvements that we made in the production process. And the Allegro and Veloce turned into what we now call the M series bow, so the warmer sounding bow. And after about a year or so, I figured, with the M series also being more flexible, that there are quite a number of professional players who like to play really strong, and for that reason prefer the S series. But playing on modern instruments, high quality modern instruments, for many the sound was too bright. So I was looking again at the tuning of the bows, and then came up with the P series bows. And this has since become one of the big successful models that we made. So the bow has the classical traditional frog, which needs a heavier stick, which it has, and by just adding a little weight to the S series bows, about 2-3 grams in total, the tuning goes down by about 1 note, and it changes sound quite significantly. It's like when you go, for example, from a Pirazzi string to an obbligato, or from a vision string to a vision solo. So it's basically the same design, as the same materials, but a different tuning, and gives a very different sound. And these P bows came out in 2009 already. So that was the first important fruit of our production restart here. And then something happened that we had not expected. By improving our process little by little, like every other month or so, we found another small improvement here or there. Here with the temperature, here with how we cut up the layers and all that. The resonance qualities of our sticks improved and improved every little bit. And then when we're doing the classification, I will not forget that day, there was a stick that would just resonate completely free. There was no distortion, noise, no nothing. It was just perfectly smooth, and it really took me by surprise. I never knew that one could make such a stick. So all the wooden bows I've ever tested and don't do that. And we were just like, that was just like a door opening or a window opening to a new world. And I was like, wow. So I put the stick to the side and I didn't know what to do with it. And next week, another such stick came out. So I put that to the side. And it showed that this was not a unique accident, but more such sticks came out, and so I designed, all right, let's not start making an S8 or P8 or M8, let's make a 9. And in the year 2011, that was then, we started officially selling those as the S9s, P9s, M9s, and they're just amazing bows. They cost a bit of money, but you know, there's only like 5% of our sticks are that good. Then I had another idea, because a few of our dealers asked me, you know, do we really have to have so many different bows? Can we not boil it down to like one series of bows? And not round and octagonal, which, by the way, behave totally different. But that's a topic for a different movie. And I was thinking about that and tried to come up with a mix, with a blend of the best ideas from the S series and the M series and the P series, and well, I designed the A series bows. I figured, okay, let's make them a little more flexible, but on the lighter side, but not too bright sounding, so right down the middle. And so we developed the A series bows, and hoping for, you know, the one solution that would fit pretty much everybody. And it turned out to be a very successful bow, but not for everybody. So a lot of players still preferred the S or the M or the P series bows. So it was just, instead of simplifying our range, it was just another extension. So that was, you know, from the view of our dealers, not really very helpful. This was, by the way, 2012. We still make them, we still have them. There are a lot of players who really love them. They deliver an exceptionally open sound. So for an instrument that's a little bit closed, a little softer built maybe, these are just amazing bows, but not for everybody. So a couple years later, we took them from our standard products back into the, you know, special product range. So until today, it's still the S, the M's, and the P's. And then something, aside of all the, you know, the individual product developments, in 2013, I discovered a completely new topic. I was looking at some point into the bows that kept coming back to us. When we send our bows for trial shipments to our dealers, to players, some bows turn out to come back again and again and again. Well, others we send out only once and they were sold. So I sorted through those bows who seemed to be rejected again and again. So there seemed to be something not quite to the liking of a lot of players. And what I discovered is that there was apparently something awkward about the thickness of the hair and the stiffness of the stick. And the bows that came back seemed to stray in that way, as maybe the stick was a little stiffer and the hair a little thinner, or the other way around. And I spent a couple of days really playing them, these bows, intensely, and started to change the hair thickness and try to find out if there is something like a perfect standard rehair for every bow. And I found it. I even found and developed then a formula how to calculate it. And I don't think something like that has been in the violin world before. So that was in the year 2013. And then we checked all the bows that we had. I tried, I don't know, 100 bows or so, playing them myself and tried to figure out what is exactly the best way they work. And yes, we discovered this formula very clearly for violin, viola, cello. It's true for every bow. And since then, we measure the stiffness or the elasticity of every bow and also the curve, and determine what is the ideal hair thickness. And for this bow, for example, for this P7 here, we figured it's 7.5 square millimeters. So we engrave it on the stick so that every violin repair shop has a clear indication of how much hair to put on the bow. It's like the pressure indicator that you'll find for your car, to which pressure it should be pumped up. Similar here. And this is a much better solution, I think, than the usual trial and error as it is handled with wooden bows. So that was in 2013 and changed our world quite a bit. And the next thing we did is, while we were at it, I also found that apparently our tolerance for the balance point was still a little too wide, because some of the bows that were coming back to us were okay with the stiffness and hair thickness, but the center of gravity was not around 24 centimeters as we have it nowadays, but maybe a centimeter up or down. And so we narrowed this down, and since then we balanced the bows very precisely. And balance seems to be so much more important than weight. So we really don't care too much if the bow is a gram heavier or lighter. It really doesn't bother us at all. But 2-3 millimeters up or down for the balance point, that makes a significant difference to the way it handles. So that was 2013, and since then we've been busy making more and more bows as the demand, with all the improvements that we've made, the demand was growing and growing, and we had to, keep hiring people and training them for this very, very difficult task of making our beautiful bows. And since then we've just done some little things, like I showed you just the X series bows, our rock and roll bow, right? And then we also tried again with more economical bows, similar to the Veloce that we've done in the past, which we called the C series. And then we did, so the last major product improvement was we reinvented the M bows for the violin. So we have a new M series here. Those we developed in 2017 only. So if you have an earlier M series bows or know them, you should try these. They are the closest to a universal bow that I ever got. And now this year obviously is our 20th anniversary, so we had to do something special, and of course we did. Not so much about the process or the design of the bow. It's quite similar to a P or M series bow, but we came up with a very special design with a gold and silver ring here, symbolizing the 20 years of dedicated work and, well, many happy musicians, and our passion for the product that is still hot. And we're looking for the next 20 years and hopefully keep the development and our research going and keep discovering things and improving things. And and now I think it's up to you. If you don't already have an ARCUS or have never played one, try some, if you can get hold of them, some older or more recent bows, and see what your preferences are and what you like about them. chances are you will play them only in the future. Alright, so that was a rather extensive overview over 20 years of development of our violin bows, and I hope you liked the video. Please share it, please like it, and see you next time. Bye.